If you suffer from the motion of the ocean and you hate spilling your breakfast over the side of the dive boat, then I've got the tips and tricks to help you. Oh, and stand by, new intro 2021 style. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on and welcome to Divers Ready. My name's James. It is so great to see all of your smiling faces. If you're new to our channel, make this your New Year's resolution. Hit that subscribe button down there, click the little bell icon, because we make videos with one simple goal in mind, and that's to help make you a better scuba diver. New intro. Too much? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. It's an old adage. The first half of being seasick, you're afraid you're gonna die. The second half of being seasick, you're afraid you're not gonna die. But let me start this video by saying I have no personal experience of being seasick myself. I'm incredibly lucky. I was just built to withstand the oceans. I don't know why. It is what it is. And I worked at sea for 10 years and I've been on some of the roughest oceans on the planet, from the Tasman to going around Cape Horn. Actually, the roughest seas I ever experienced were in the Mediterranean in a place called the Gulf of Lions, which is basically the scoop out of the southern coast of France. And late in the season, at the end of the summer, you have these cold winds coming off of the Alps called a Mistral, and the warm winds coming north of the Sahara called a Sirocco, and they form a front, and the whole of that sort of bowl-shaped body of water just becomes a washing machine. I was there one time in an 8,000-ton ship, not a big ship. We had a grand piano on board that ship. It took 6 guys my size to move that piano an inch. It was a big, heavy piano. Well, one wave came up and tapped the stern of the ship at about 3 a.m. in the morning and tossed that grand piano across the deck. I mean, it was matchsticks at the other side of the room. It was incredible. It was the kind of night where sailors will take a Viagra before they go to bed, not for any kinky purposes, but just to stop them from rolling out of their bunks. I never got seasick. All my time at sea, I never got seasick. I worked with a lot of people who got seasick. My wife suffers from seasickness. I'm only mentioning this to say that a lot of the advice I'm going to give you in this video is coming from my experience of seeing other people be seasick, seeing what works for them, and not really from my personal point of view. I'm just lucky. I don't know. Stay tuned to the end of this video and I will share with you my story of the worst cases of seasickness I've ever seen. Right, let's dive in with the tips then. Tip number 1, prevention is better than a cure. The cure for seasickness is dry land. That's it. There is no pill or shot or patch you can use to cure seasickness, but there are a number of preventative measures that you can take that work with varying degrees of success based on your own personal experiences. My wife Karina gets seasickness. She relies on a product called Bonine. This is a non-drowsy version of Dramamine, which is the one you normally take on an airplane if you get motion sick in the skies with turbulence. Pop one of those, have a drink, go to sleep, wake up feeling fine at your destination. That doesn't work on dive boats because Dramamine makes you sleepy. Not a good idea to be sleepy while diving, so she goes with a slightly different version called Bonine, and that works for her. I have another friend who uses a drug called scopolamine, which in the US is only available with a prescription and only from compound pharmacies, but it is the same medication that is compounded into those little transdermal patches that you put behind your ears that's slowly absorbed into your system. So there's a bunch of different options out there, but all of these options are preventative medications. The biggest mistake that I see people make is there's a group of divers standing around the dock getting ready to get on their dive boat and they all start popping seasickness tablets. Well, what do you think the first thing they puke up is? The seasickness tablet. They haven't given it time to work. Karina takes a Bonine the night before she is going diving, and then one again first thing in the morning as soon as she wakes up, before we get in the car and even drive to the dive center, so that her system is awash with anti-nausea medication, and she's generally less embarrassing to be on a dive boat with. I'm kidding, honey, that was a joke. That was a joke. Tip number 2 is condition your system. Give your body a fighting chance. Watch what you eat the night before and the morning of a dive trip. Try to cut out greasy foods and alcohol and instead opt for lots of fruit, lots of veggies, good clean proteins. Of course, as any good diver should, make sure you're well hydrated. Also, remember to chew your food really well, so if you do end up shouting at your fins, your body will thank you for that. Tip number 3 is pick your place. If at all possible, try to sit in the middle of the dive boat. It's simple physics. The middle of the boat moves less than the bow or the stern. At all costs, avoid sitting towards the stern or anywhere else you might be exposed to exhaust fumes. That's not going to help your situation at all. If the dive boat is a multi-decked vessel, choose the lowest deck above the waterline, stay there, stay in the fresh air, and keep your eyes on the horizon. Tip number 4 is don't zip up too soon. If you're diving in a wetsuit, my best possible advice is to wait until the last moment to do your wetsuit up all the way. There's something around pressure on the neck that just exasperates the feeling of nausea. Any kind of pressure here on the Adam's apple just kind of makes you start salivating and, oh, I think I'm going to be sick. And the neoprene collar on a wetsuit is particularly good at that kind of choking feeling. It needs to be tight to do its job, but on the surface, that feeling there just, it's not a good thing, and it's going to accelerate your desire to feed the fish. Tip number 5 is get in the water. Dive, dive, dive. As soon as the captain says pulls open, you should be ready to get off the boat. While the boat is going along, you've got that lovely breeze that's your friend, it's cooling you down. Now, as soon as you drop anchor or tie up to a mooring, that breeze is gone. It's not your friend anymore. So you need to get off the boat. What I recommend is make sure the captain's giving you a 10-minute warning before they pull up to the site. You can start to get into your gear, so as soon as they announce pulls open, in the water you go. Once you're in the water, if it's rough on the surface, you can still get seasick there, so get under the surface. If you've got a dive buddy who's dilly-dallying around, very simply, tell them you'll wait for them at the safety stop. Go to the mooring line, hang on the line, go down 15 feet and just get out of the swell. And remember folks, if you need to park a tiger underwater, do it through your regulator. All of the tips so far have been preventative, but let's say none of them worked for you. That brings us to tip number 6, listen to the V.I.P protocol. In the event that you get seasick on a dive boat in the open ocean, there is absolutely no excuse for you to either clog the marine head with your badly chewed croissant or slop your eggs on the deck. The captain should tell you where the best place on the boat is to call Ralph from. Your job then is to make sure that 100% of your jettison cargo hits the salt water. So go where the captain tells you, get your chin over the gunnels, pull the trigger. You will be scored on distance, arc, colour and noise. Own it. Okay, so let's say that you've been seasick. Tip number 7 is recovery. Whilst you may be praying for death to take you, it's highly unlikely that it will. As hard as it may seem, you're going to have to pull yourself together and manage your own recovery. And yes, I know that's coming from a guy who doesn't get seasick. I'm sorry, it is what it is, okay? But do yourself some favors. Don't sit on the deck of the boat with a towel over your head feeling sorry for yourself. It's only going to make your situation worse. Get your head up, get your chin up, keep looking at the horizon and get some fresh air into your lungs. And then as soon as you feel capable to do so, start rehydrating. All dive boats have water on board, get some down you, even if it's just to wash your mouth out and feel fresh again. Also, if you carry those little packets of Gatorade powder or whatever, those things are fantastic to bring your electrolytes back up. Last but not least, tip number 8, you can't get seasick if you don't dive in the ocean. There's a bunch of hardcore cave divers who live up in North Florida, and once a year, normally around the end of the summer, they'll come down to show us salties how it's done in cave country, and invariably end up reverse defecating over the side of the dive boat. There's no waves in caves, bros. But seriously, maybe the ocean isn't for you. Have you tried freshwater diving in a spring or a lake? There's lots of beautiful options around in water diving that don't involve long boat rides across choppy oceans. And just because maybe you can't handle the seas doesn't mean that scuba diving isn't for you. Okay, so that's about all the hints and tips I've got for you to help you avoid doing a rainbow yawn on your next dive trip. So if you're squeamish and you don't want to hear my story about the worst cases of seasickness I've ever seen, it's time to say goodbye. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye now. No, seriously, you need to get out of here because it's about to get dark. Alright, so this story begins when your hero was a young lad. I wasn't taking my diving seriously, I wasn't even a sailor by then. I want to say I was probably around 19 years old. And the only thing I cared about at that time in my life was my rugby. Now, the club I was playing for at the time had arranged a pre-season tour to head over to Ireland. So we packed up a tour bus full of 40 rugby players, coaches, staff and so on, and made our way from the south coast of England, up through England, through Wales to the north of Wales, to a town called Holyhead, where you can catch a ferry over to Dublin. And we were going to be there for 2 weeks and travel around and play some local teams and just generally knock the rust off and get ready for the new season. Now, it's not a stretch of the imagination to presume that that coach ride up through England and Wales was not a sober one, and we arrived to the port in less than perfect condition. The people that were taking the ferry with us that evening included, well, the coach full of rugby players and probably about 5 or 6 private cars, and a farmer who was transporting about 300 head of Hereford cattle back to his farm in Ireland. And the plan was as such: they loaded the cows last and took them off first. So we put our bus in and the cars in, and then the cows, for reasons I still don't really understand to this day, were just free roaming around the car deck. Okay, so we deboarded the bus, we went up to the lounge, we continued drinking, the cows were loaded, the roll-on door was closed, and off we set to Ireland. Now, that crossing is normally about 2.5 hours. On this evening it was particularly rough, probably about 3.5 if I remember rightly. And in that time, every passenger on the ferry except one got incredibly seasick. Who was the one? Do you have to ask? Big J. Yeah, it is what it is. Don't get me wrong, I was drunk, I was in no position to care for anybody, but I wasn't seasick. So my teammates are in a terrible state right now, and they're just praying for death, praying to get the hell off this damn ferry, as are all the other passengers, because now the whole upper decks of the ferry smell like rugby players' vomit. It's not a good situation to be in. So imagine their delight when we get to Dublin finally, and the cows get offloaded, and we're told over the PA system that you can now return to your vehicles and we're ready to offload you. We all rushed to the stairwells, got down to the car deck, except we couldn't reboard our coach until they'd washed the deck down. Turns out that cows also get seasick, and they've got 4 stomachs. 300 cows, 4 stomachs each, that's 1,200 stomachs that had been emptied by 300 scared, nervous cows on a rolling ferry. Not to mention the other excrements that cows produce, and the gas, and mixed in with kind of the smell of marine fuel, oil leaking from somewhere, and a fair amount of seawater that had washed over the gunnels and had found its way down to the car deck. It was pretty harsh, and I remember a lot of my big tough rugby playing mates taking it like a punch to the face. The smell was incredible, and 20 years later on, when I lie my head on the pillow and close my eyes at night, it is both with that smell and the sound of 300 cows puking that I'm haunted. Please consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't done so already, and if you found this video informative or at least entertaining, give it the old thumbs up. Until next time, my name's James. This was your Divers Ready video for this week. Dive safe, dive often.